Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Weekly. I am one of your hosts, Connor Nielsen, joined as always by Rasco, haircut and no bandana.
Hi.
Rasco,
Hi, everyone.
how are you? How are you this fine evening?
I'm fantastic. I'm feeling great, ready to talk about some movies.
Yep, it is not quite Rogue One weekend. It is the weekend before Rogue One weekend. It's snowing in Oregon. Cats and dogs are sleeping together. And let's talk about some movies. By the way, Golden Globe nominations came out recently. I have some issues with it, but it's the Golden Globes. Who cares? Okay. Deadpool was nominated for Best Comedy or Musical, and Ryan Reynolds was nominated for Best Lead Actor in a Comedy or Musical, which means that the Hollywood Foreign Press just really wanted to hang out with Ryan Reynolds just for the night. So, anything else that movie related you want to talk about before we get into the weekend box office, Rasco?
Not really.
Okay. All right, so the weekend box office. Coming in first place for the third week in a row is Moana with $18.5 million. In second place, we have Office Christmas Party with $16.8 million in its debut weekend. Third place, we have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them with $10.4 million. In fourth place is Arrival with $5.5 million. In fifth place, Doctor Strange with $4.5 million. In sixth place, Allied with $3.9 million. Coming in seventh place in its first wide weekend of release, we have Nocturnal Animals with $3.1 million. In eighth place, with a bigger rollout than last week, we have Manchester by the Sea with $3.1 million. In ninth place, we have Trolls with $3 million. And in 10th place, Hacksaw Ridge with $2.2 million, continuing to have some legs. Not debuting in the top 10 in its first wide weekend of release is Miss Sloane, which we will be talking about later in the show, with only $1.8 million in 11th place. I should probably mention, Nocturnal Animals beat out Manchester by the Sea with less than $30,000. They both had technically $3.1 million in their, I want to say, yeah, both of them had a pretty wide rollout this weekend. So, Rasco, what do you think of these numbers?
I can't believe that Hacksaw Ridge has managed to stay in the top 10.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
That's amazing for that movie.
As a reminder, that came out the same weekend as Trolls and Doctor Strange, and that was the smallest release of all of those. And I'm impressed by Hacksaw Ridge's returns.
Yeah. It's not. That's actually so. I wasn't expecting Miss Sloane to do so poorly, but now that it's happened, it's kind of understandable why that movie wouldn't do so well. Around this time of year, none of the trailers were really that interesting for that movie, I thought, so it's not that surprising, honestly.
Yeah, but we'll get into it. But Miss Sloane felt like an August movie that had a really, big performance from an actress who gets a lot of awards consideration every time she's in a movie. So they put it in December. I think that was a mistake. But Arrival is still in the top five. That's insane. It only made $5.5 million, but they have to be happy with the financial reception of that movie. And it actually was in. Usually, when a movie's out for longer periods of time, it disappears from theaters. It gets less and less theaters will have it. It actually gained about 230 more theaters this weekend because of its positive reception from critics and audiences alike.
That's strange. I mean, imagine if that movie wasn't good.
I
know. how poorly it would have done.
We should also probably say the American Film Institute's top 10 films of the year came out this last week, and both Arrival and Hacksaw Ridge were on that list. I don't think that boosted its numbers by a lot, but it certainly probably didn't hurt. Manchester by the Sea was also on that list, but I think its wider rollout and its awards buzz is catering more to the audiences than being on a top 10 list from the American Film Institute. All right, Rasco, you ready to get into the movies?
Yes, I am.
All right, the first movie we are talking about, we told you we'd talk about it this week. I saw it last week. Manchester by the Sea. starring Casey Affleck, Michelle Williams, Kyle Chandler, and Lucas Hedges. Rasco, do you want to tell us about this movie and what you thought of it?
Okay, so Manchester by the Sea is a movie about a guy played by Casey Affleck. I don't remember what his character's name was actually, but it's not important. Essentially, his brother dies, and his brother has a son who is, I think, 17 or 18, somewhere in that age range. And he has to go up to where his to Manchester by the sea, and he has to go do the funeral arrangements and kind of hang out and take care of his dead brother's son. And that's pretty much what the movie's about.
And what did you think of Manchester by the Sea?
I like this movie. I didn't love this movie, but there was a lot of very specific, unique things about this movie that were kind of refreshing for me. And overall, I think that I really, really liked Casey Affleck's performance. It's very strange, and I know we can get into it a little bit because I don't know if you like this movie as much as I do, but it's his performance I liked, and this movie has a bunch of tiny little nuanced quirks that when they kind of add up, I think really work, and I really like it.
Cool. I like this movie. I don't know. Maybe like is a strong word. This is a good movie. It is. It is well acted. It is well directed. It's well written. I can't, for the life of me, think of any significant flaw this movie has. I just have a very hard time getting enthusiastic about really anything in this movie. Casey Affleck is doing what he can, but really, I, I don't want to shortchange his performance. But his character is sad, and then 2 hours and 15 minutes later, he's still sad. He's a broken person. He's a sad individual, and I get why. I've seen the movie. I know that the bad stuff that's happened to him, but after a while, I found it to get a little repetitive. I think that this movie is honestly at its best in the first 5-ish minutes, and that sounds harsh, but let me elaborate. Casey Affleck plays a Boston janitor, and he lives in like this apartment. He's a maintenance man in this apartment building, and then he is called to go back to his hometown of Manchester, where he had left his life because of something that had happened in the past. And honestly, him being a maintenance man at an apartment building, I thought that was the best part of the movie. I found it unique. It was interesting. We never really see movies about the janitor I thought the cast of characters that lived in that he had to provide maintenance for, I thought they were kind of funny and kind of interesting. And then we put him into a story that made him less interesting by a lot, I thought. And then we get to learn his tragic backstory, which I thought made him even less interesting. And the more the movie went on, the less involved I was in where his character was going, and I really began to lose interest. I didn't check out of this movie. I just lost a desire to know what was going to happen next. And it's fine. I like slice of life movies. I love Boyhood. I love that movie. But I can't really get excited about this movie. And honestly, I think if this movie had come out in March, I don't think anyone would be talking about this movie. I don't think in 4 years we're going to know the character of Lee Chandler. No one's really going to know that. We're just going to remember that Casey Affleck gave a really good performance, but oh well, I think, and Casey Affleck is the forefront for Best Actor this year, and that goes off to show just how bad of a year this has been. But B, I wish that if we're gonna I think Casey Affleck deserves an award sometime in his life. He's a great actor. I think he's even better than his brother. I just wish we would give him a Best Actor trophy for something that was better than this character, because I think he's bringing stuff. Oh well, that's just my general thoughts. I think and okay, what's good about this movie is everyone in this movie acts like adults. They do. It's a rough situation that no one really wants to be in, but everyone kind of handles it like adults. And then the next scene happens, and we get to deal with that situation. Probably a tough situation. They handle it like adults. And then we go into the next scene, and okay. Lucas Hedges, I think, is giving a very good performance for a character hasn't died yet. I think he's acting like a kid. All right, cool. I think there's one scene, probably his most dramatic scene that I thought honestly was the weakest acting performance in the movie from Lucas Hedges. Uh, but oh well, I have a hard time getting energetic about the movie, but I do recognize it's a well-crafted movie, and I can understand why people like this movie. Do you have anything more to say?
Um, okay, so if we start with Casey Affleck's character, what I really liked about it was what I liked about him is that throughout the movie we learn, and so I'll keep this spoiler free, but we learn essentially what's happened in his past and why he has such a tragic backstory. And essentially, what I found really interesting about his character was that he's a guy who had a life and had a lot going for him, and that's taken away, and then it's about someone who can't find the motivation to really invest themselves in their new life and building up a new life. And I really thought that that was very tragic. Just the idea of like someone who had not necessarily the greatest life, but they had their life going for them, and then something happened, and it's almost like they're starting from square one. And that kind of character who just really can't find the motivation to really invest himself in his new life or try to build a new one, and someone who kind of every time an opportunity is given to them, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, but I'll put that to the side. I'm not really trying too hard. I'm just kind of living out the rest of my days. That's what I really liked about his character, and that's what I actually really did like about his performance, because I think it's one of those characters where kind of what's so sad is that like he doesn't really change throughout the movie. He just kind of stays the same, and there's little snippets of a gleam in his eye, right, where he gets inspiration, where he's like, I have an idea. And those are few and far between, but those moments really stick out because most of the time he's really apathetic about everything going on, and I actually really like that about his character.
I see where you're coming from too. I guess I think what would have worked better for me is if this movie was if every single character has something that's really sad in their life, and after a while, it just becomes like a contest of who has the saddest backstory or who's had the saddest life, and it's just sadness, 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 and then we learn his backstory, and I felt it lacked a lot of impact because it was just piling onto an already big heap of sadness. It's like, okay, yeah, that sucks. Okay, and I think another thing that I that bugs me about this film is it's dry. It's a very dry movie, but it's not a subtle movie, and I think the movie is trying to be subtle. And I have nothing against movies that aren't subtle. Mad Max Fury Road is one of the least subtle films I've ever seen in my life. It's also one of my favorite movies of last year. It's one of my favorite action movies ever. I love that movie, but is it subtle? I guess dry versus subtle. It's like think of Man of Steel. That's a very dry movie. It is, but it's not subtle. You know, having Clark Kent right here and Jesus right here. That's not subtle.
Do you get it yet?
Do you get it?
Do you get it?
I've been on this. What does he say? He's like, I've been on this world for like 32 years or something,
Yeah.
or 20, whatever. It's like, oh, get it? Because that's how old Jesus was.
Like 33 years, I think.
Do you get it? But I mean, okay, it's not subtle. That's not bad though. But I think this movie is trying to be subtle. There's a dream sequence to like, okay, without spoiling anything. Casey Affleck is in this situation and he feels like he is trying to atone for his past. In case a conversation he has with Michelle Williams didn't get that across, we have this dream sequence that really makes it too explicit and it really bugged me. And when towards the end, I got a little antsy and a little frustrated because the movie was really doing the do you get it yet? Do you get it? And this movie, I don't think respects its audience enough to leave enough up to the audience to interpret. And that's my big issue with the movie.
I will say that I don't think the movie isn't necessarily. I don't think the movie's trying to be subtle because I think what the movie's doing is it's not trying to make you feel anything more than just the obvious. So what I mean by that is there's a scene in this movie where it's like a huge emotional impact, like, oh, this is a really sad aspect of his backstory. And it's supposed to really hit you, but they don't do the violin. Are you crying
Yeah.
yet? Here's the bowl of onions. They're not trying to like hype up the emotional impact of it. They're just bluntly showing you, yep, this happened. That's it. It's not dramatic. It's not like you get like a shot of him with his hair blowing in the wind as he's looking off into the sunset and like one tear rolls down his face. It's not that. It's that just happened. And then it goes on. And I actually really like that. So
I agree. I like the matter of fact nature of the direction. I think that is a strong tool in its belt.
yeah, and like in that same vein, it will do little things where people will like. There's a scene where they're trying to load someone into an ambulance, and they like fumble around trying to get this person in the ambulance for like 3 minutes, and it's totally a thing that would really happen in real life. Not this dramatic. Let's get her in, and it just rolls in. No, it's just like a. How do we work this thing? And then I really like that. And there's tons of little tiny moments like that.
It's that little really comedy that's in real life.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, and then there's a moment where they're on an elevator, and then we cut to a flashback, and then when it cuts back to them getting off the elevator, I thought that was a good edit. I think at times, okay. I think it's hard to discuss this because it is trying to be slice of life, matter of fact, all the facts direction. But life just naturally has a lot of humorous moments, dramatic moments. But when we're living our life, there isn't string music telling us how to feel. There just isn't.
Yeah.
But I felt like, but we're watching a narrative, all right? We're watching a movie, and I think for the sake of variety, this movie. I don't want to say it's playing this for laughs, but it went to Casey Affleck is an awkward character, so he has awkward interactions with people like all the time. It went there all the time, and I get that he's a very socially awkward person who doesn't want to be around these people because he knows they really don't want to be around him because of stuff that's happened in the past. And but I do think that him having awkward interactions were played out a little too much. And I felt like a lot of the movie was, okay, now Casey Affleck has an awkward interaction with this character. Then he has an awkward interaction with this character. Okay. That's exactly how it would happen. They all act like adults. Next scene. And so I got a little frustrated with the repetition of that.
That's fair. At the same time, that's kind of what I liked about it because it's like there's all these scenes where like, okay, this is going to be the scene where he like emotionally invests himself in like either a relationship or a conversation or something, and no, he doesn't. It's just and there's one scene where it's like that to a million. It's like this scene, the whole scene, one person's trying to like start a dialogue, and he's just like he just won't reciprocate anything. It's really weird.
And what I'm saying though is like it's not an inherently bad thing. If it works for you, then awesome. It works. Like this is like one of those things where I can't. Me being a little down on this movie, it's all subjective. Objectively, this is a good movie. You know what I mean? If you break down the direction, the acting, the script, like it all adds up to something. It just didn't play to my taste at all, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely say that no matter, it doesn't matter if you've heard people give this movie bad reviews or great reviews. I think it's definitely worth going to see just to see how any individual feels about this. This is definitely a movie that I think you should watch because you might love it. It might be a movie that you absolutely love. Mm-hmm. Or it might just be like, I don't get it, I hate this movie. That could also happen. I'm somewhere in between leaning towards I like it, and you seem like you're somewhere in between leaning towards the other side.
I guess so. I think that at the end of the day, maybe I got expectations ahead of me. There just really isn't a whole lot to it, and I think that's the point. That life, sometimes life just doesn't have these really deep moments and all. But look at the chicken in the freezer. Oh, okay, I get it. And for me, I want a little bit more than that. Like, I want to see how this connects to other things in the film. But no, that's for that specific character. And there's Lucas Hedges. He has a panic attack about something in the movie. And honestly, I thought the acting was legitimately bad in that scene. But And I know you disagree. We've talked about that before, but um, it never really comes up again. It just sort of happens, and then it goes away. And I can't really articulate the feeling other than frustration. So I think that's all I have to say about the film. If you
Yeah,
have anything,
I don't have much else to say either.
all right, I'm gonna give this movie a 7 because I do acknowledge it's a decent film. I just was a little ho hum on it.
I think I'm gonna give this movie. I think I'm gonna give this movie an 8 out of 10.
All right, all right, Rasco, do you want to talk about our next movie, Office Christmas Party?
All right, so I actually just saw Office Christmas Party less than an
Sweet.
hour ago.
So this is like a reaction
Yeah,
almost.
so it's like a first impressions video. So Office Christmas Party it's a party comedy. I mean, that's a genre now, party comedies, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
almost riding off the heels of Sisters last year.
yeah, and that combined with like a Christmas comedy, and it's kind of doing the oh, this is so crazy to be happening at Christmas time. This is so
Yeah.
raunchy and oh, it's a Christmas movie, but this is so not Christmassy. It's doing that thing, kind of the bad Santa thing mixed with the party comedy, and you combine them into one, and you have Office Christmas Party. And this movie, to just quick plot synopsis, essentially, these people need to have an office Christmas party to get a guy to come in and work with them to save their company, because if they can't achieve this, then a lot of people will be laid off and bad things will happen to the company.
All right. It also stars Jason Bateman, Olivia Munn, Jennifer Aniston, T.J. Miller, Courtney Vance. I want to say Junior. I don't think so. Kate McKinnon is also in there, and Vanessa Bayer is also in there, and then several other comedians, contemporary comedians, are in there. What were your thoughts on this movie, Rasco?
This movie, I think, it's like firmly mediocre, I think. I said that about Incarnate, but I think this Incarnate's not quite firmly mediocre. It's below that. This is firmly mediocre. This movie, it wasn't great. I didn't laugh a whole lot. There were a few moments where something was legitimately funny. It's one of those movies that comedies, I should say, that falls into the okay, you're not really here for a story, so we'll set up a million tiny little threads. You'll watch the movie where it's just like mindless comedy entertainment. Then by the end, everything just very quickly, all the little threads come together and everything works out perfectly. I just had an idea. Let me fix everything at the end of this day after everything's gone to crap. Now I'm going to fix everything because I just had an I hate that. That happens in so many movies where it's like, that's every episode of Flash. It's, what did you just say? Did you just say like a hot pocket? That reminds me of microwaves. Microwave emitter. Like, that's like how Flash ends. This movie has that going for it. And it kind of literally made me groan. Like, literally at the end of this movie, it's like every single thing a character says is concluding the tiny little arc that was set up for them in the beginning. It's like every line of dialogue is like, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. Okay, those people, they had a little thing going on in the beginning. Now that's concluded at the end. Oh, this guy, he had this thing, little subplot going on over here. His like, you know, the ending, immediately that little thing is resolved. It's just, oh, it really comes together too easy. And it's just like, why do you even bother at that point, right? Like, that's what I liked about Project X to a certain extent, is that for a lot of that movie, it's just like, yeah, look at this. It's fun. And it doesn't really try to like beat you over the head with too much. Now, there is a little bit of that in Project X, but it's a lot more believable. It's just like, okay, now everything has to work out because it's a comedy. And it's, yeah.
So you're saying when Olivia Munn hacks the internet, well, she doesn't even really hack the internet. She hacked electricity to make the internet work. That was, it was like a science fiction movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, spoilers, whatever.
Yeah, we should probably go into spoilers on this, just cause.
Yeah. I didn't laugh once during this movie. I should just say, I didn't giggle or chuckle once in this movie. I didn't even crack a smile once while I watched this movie. I don't know what it is. And I couldn't really articulate it until I recently watched a Red Letter Media movie where Jay had said, you know, when just normal life, I laugh like all the time. I just laugh at the dumbest, smallest things. And I laugh quite a bit. I do too. But when I go and watch a movie, I just all of a sudden turn into a stone wall. Um, and I guess where it kind of comes down to is my philosophy on comedy is when I go and watch a movie that is made by professionals and they're coming up with jokes that I can come up with, then I'm not going to laugh or have a good time because this is a movie. You guys should be better than me making a couple of quips, right? Right? Um, Even if it's dumb humor, making a pun that I wouldn't have come up with, good. I will kind of chuckle or laugh at that or grin. Oh, I didn't think that's clever. Um, this movie to me felt like a corporate like product more than any. And I know you all movies are corporate products. Yes, you're right. Awards movies are really only put out so they can make money off of the awards buzz. That's why they're put out. I understand that. But when it came to stuff like Manchester by the Sea, I felt like someone at least wanted to make that movie. Casey
Definitely.
Affleck and Michelle Williams, they all wanted to act in it. They all were putting out effort to give good performances. I didn't feel that here. I felt like this people, some studio producers saw a trend of raunchy, wacky, zany comedies and older audiences and workplace comedies and Christmas comedies and thought, well, why don't we just put it all together? You know, we had The Night Before, we had Sisters, um, uh, Kate McKinnon and T.J. Miller and Jennifer Aniston and Jason Bateman. They all have people that will go and watch them in the movie. Hey, let's do that. And the whole thing felt soulless to me. So and I felt all the jokes were the easiest go to. Well, you don't see that in real life. You don't have a boss or okay. I felt like no one none okay. It's also indicative of issues I have with comedy right now. Everything's improv, and everyone seems to have graduated from the same school of improv. Do you get feel that way sometimes? Because
Yeah.
that's the way I
I know exactly what you know. Here's can I just point this out? Here is something that is in so much improv that annoys the crap in improv type comedy movies. The key is something will come up in conversation and they'll hold on to that one thing way too long, and the fact that they keep going back to that one thing throughout a exchange is what is where they derive their humor from. It's like, for example, there's a scene, oh, keep talking about Fast and Furious, blah blah blah, and the conversation moves on, and then at the end of the conversation someone's still talking about Fast and Furious, and it keeps going back to Fast and Furious, and it's like that's supposed to be why it's funny, because this person keeps going back to talking about Fast and Furious.
and the first act of this movie drove me crazy because it's all reference humor. And then that plays into the improv. I like good improv. Don't get me wrong, but I also like written jokes. Remember those where I like for example, the funniest, the hardest I've ever laughed in a movie was in 22 Jump Street with the red herring joke. That required scenes upon scenes of written build-up and sight gag, and when it finally paid off, the more I thought about it and how they had seeded it, the more I was laughing at it. With this, it's oh, I know what Fast and the Furious is. It's still not funny, and because everyone is kind of doing the same style of improv, that SNL type one joke per scene improv,
Yeah.
all the characters felt interchangeable to me. And honestly, and that's why what makes workplace comedies so appealing is different characters have their own different thing going, and that's what makes I think stuff like The Office or Parks and Rec or even stuff like Friends, even what makes that kind of sitcom style big ensemble cast comedy work is everyone has their own little quirks and their own little things going on, and since all these characters feel interchangeable, they're all making the same kind of jokes. I don't really get what's going. I don't really get why I should be invested. And then when the big party scene happens, I was thinking, you know what? I would. And that's the thing about party movies is they're fun to watch because It's projection. You're projecting yourself into the situation. Oh, that'd be fun to do. And I was watching the party scenes. I'm thinking this would be fun if I cared at all or identified at all with any of these characters. I think the best character in the movie is T.J. Miller.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we get towards the end, the Jennifer Aniston character completely does a 180 with no explanation ever. She's completely against T.J. Miller's thing, and I'm going to close down the branch, and mwahaha, I'm such an ice queen, I'm so evil. And then she just shows up in a van and says, all right, get in, we got to go save T.J. Miller, with no explanation. And you're thinking, oh, it's just a stupid comedy. Sure, imagine all the jokes you could wring out of that situation of, oh, I want to save my brother now. Why? Bam, joke, bam, joke, bam, joke. It's just so not creative, and that's the thing that really let me down here.
The ending, there's a lot of padding as well. This is a spoiler. Okay, cutting it. Spoiler talk from now on. I'm getting into spoilers here, okay? Spoiler. They're going to save TJ Miller. They drive to the location where he is at. They go inside. There's the, oh, I'll hold them off. You guys continue on with the mission scene. Someone's holding off the bad guys so the other people can continue on. And then TJ Miller is in a car. They drive away, and it's like, oh, now we got to leave to go chase them. It's like, why didn't you just have them chase them from the office building when they left from the office to go to this like pimp house where they need to find TJ Miller? Why even have TJ Miller go to the pimp house with these people? Why not just have him get in the car with them and then drive off and then, oh no, where'd he go? They went that way, and then drive after him, because it's all gonna come down to a car chase in the end. Why do you have to go to this one location just to start the car chase?
I don't know.
That was total padding. The movie really could have almost. There's a scene where it's like that scene feels like it's supposed to be like at the 3/4 of the way in mark, and it happens like halfway through the movie. It felt like they really were trying to pad this out.
You're so good at noticing those things. I remember you saw Morgan before I saw Morgan, and you said there's a part where the cook goes into a location just to come out, and then you said the whole part where the cook goes into the thing, that whole thing could have been cut. And you said that before I went and saw the movie, and then while I was watching the movie, I didn't know what you were talking about. And then afterwards, I was like, you know, that could have been cut. I wouldn't have even thought of that if Rasco hadn't told me about that.
Yes, I'm great at telling you what shouldn't be in your movie.
I also think you're right. The wrap up is I found obnoxious. Every single thing needs some sort of payoff or one last little thing out of the running gag. Do you think this movie was sponsored by Uber, by the way? Just saying.
Maybe. Again, that was one of the jokes where one of the improv things where it's like, oh, I drive for Uber, yada, 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 I'm a CEO. Oh, are you the CEO of Uber? And we keep going back to the same thing. And like, that's what's deriving the improv. It's like, oh, we just keep talking about this one thing. And what's funny is that all this other stuff is way more important, but I keep getting caught up on this little tiny just detail that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And that happens in so many scenes. And that's not just this. That's in a lot of things where they just go on way too long in improv scenes with like, let's keep talking about this one pointless thing. And that's what's funny about it. We keep talking about things that are pointless.
Yeah, that's a great way of articulating it. I also felt like, okay, Vanessa Bayer, Vanessa Bayer.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
She was my least favorite person on SNL for years and years and years. And now she started being in movies, and I'm thinking, oh no, I really don't think she's funny. But I really liked her in Trainwreck. I thought she was funny as the coworker that Amy Schumer works with. And then I saw her in this movie, and I saw her credit come up. I'm like, oh no, she's really not going to be funny. And she wasn't even trying to be funny. She was just somebody who's just kind of a straight man. And I liked her as a straight man. Maybe it's going to be, like, maybe she'll be one of those people that I didn't like them on SNL, but when they're actually, like, in movies, I'm going to like them more as, like, bit players. So kudos, Vanessa Bayer. You're maybe my favorite part of the movie, actually. And I'm surprised I'm saying that. This whole movie also just kind of suffers from, I just don't really like a lot of the people in this movie. I like Jason Bateman.
I like Jason Bateman also.
I don't really like Jennifer Aniston as a comedian. I don't think she's really funny. I also don't really think T.J. Miller is very funny. The only thing I've ever really found him kind of funny in was Deadpool. But I really didn't like him in Big Hero 6, and I thought he was nigh unwatchable in Transformers 4. Uh,
Ugh.
so, and you know what? To his credit, he was better in this movie than he was in Transformers 4 and Big Hero 6. So maybe T.J. Miller's growing on me. I don't know. Maybe he's just gotten better with time. Maybe. So to the actors' credits, I wasn't as annoyed by the actors as I thought I would be. So there's that. If you like crazy, over the top, raunchy comedies, you might like this movie. Maybe. I just felt like
That's
even
the
the,
audience, right? It's
yeah.
trying to fill that hole of the raunchy comedy that you can go see right now.
I felt like the raunch though felt very safe and obvious
I
to me.
agree. Yeah.
Um, I mean, the movie The Brothers Grimsby was not a very good movie, but it went so over the top as far as raunchy comedies go that people were so turned off by just how extreme they went. And this felt so tame by crazy out there standards.
Yeah. Except for the one joke that I don't want to say on this channel, but there was the one joke that I legitimately laughed at. Like I was like, that was actually funny. I can't
Oh, what
say
was
it,
it?
but
Can you allude to it?
all I'll say is mommy. That's all
Oh, okay, okay.
but specifically diapers. That was the
Okay.
like yeah. That's go see the movie if you want to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I also just didn't find that very funny. Jillian Bell continues to be my least favorite working comedian in the industry right now. She plays the pimp in the movie. Uh, like when like the pimp walks out of the car, I'm like, oh, who's it gonna be? Is it gonna be like Leslie Jones or Melissa McCarthy or someone? Oh no, it was the only bad thing about 22 Jump Street. Okay.
I really liked her in 20. This is off the point. I liked her in 22 Jump Street because she was so punchable in that movie.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was the role she needed to fulfill. She needed to be punchable. She was also punchable in this movie, but I mean, she's kind of like a villain.
Oh,
I guess a villain.
I think it's funny how this movie didn't want to go with a bridge has been raised and let's see if we can Vin Diesel it over. They didn't want to go that far, but hacking electricity to save the internet's okay.
Yeah.
That was strange.
Yeah,
Oh
those.
well,
Yeah,
I don't
there's.
really have much more to say about this movie. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't really have much more to say either.
What's your score for this movie, Rasco?
I said this movie's firmly mediocre, so I think I got to go with a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Maybe
This to
even
me
less
is
than that. Maybe a 4, but I'm gonna give it a 5 for now. 5 out of
oh,
10.
I'm going to give this movie a 2 out of 10. This movie is not the depth of hell horrible that is 50 Shades of Black. Um,
You're
but
great.
no, 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 50 Shades of Black. The
Oh, the pair. Oh, okay. I
the
forgot that was a movie.
Marlon Wayne's parody from January.
Yeah.
By the way, Rasco, we're in December. It's only weeks until we get to be in the creative wasteland that is
That's
January.
gonna be
So,
really fun though for this show. Like that's gonna be really fun. Cause last episode with Incarnate, like if we can get like a multiple Incarnate type films coming out, then that'll be awesome.
but the way I rationed this score out is, I at least chuckled and laughed a small handful of times at Bad Santa 2, even though I really didn't like that movie. I didn't laugh at all during this movie, and honestly, if you're a comedy that doesn't make me laugh or chuckle or even grin or smile, that's really a big failure in my eyes. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.
All right. What's next
Oh,
on the itinerary?
our next movie is Nocturnal Animals, the new movie from writer-director Tom Ford, who is a very popular fashion designer, apparently. This is his second film after the 2009 film A Single Man starring Colin Firth. This time around, we have Amy Adams, Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Shannon, um, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Armie Hammer's in there. Michael Sheen's in here for a scene. Uh, it's got quite a big cast, most of whom only show up for a scene. Basically, what it's about is Amy Adams plays an artist of sorts living in Los Angeles when she gets a manuscript from her first husband for a book that he has written called Nocturnal Animals. Her husband is away on a business trip, allegedly, and so she's reading the book, and we see the book dramatized for us on screen. And then we also get some flashbacks when she's not reading the book to when she and Jake Gyllenhaal, her first husband, first met each other and their relationship and how it went wrong. So there's a bit of a it's non-linear, it's in three different parts. Um, so that's really the gist of it. Rasco, what did you think of Nocturnal Animals?
Okay, so when the movie first started, I was really worried. I'm not talking about how the movie opens because the movie has a very strange opening. But after the very strange opening, and we start getting into the actual film, I was really worried because to me it was like bland directing to the max for a few minutes there. But I think it was intentional. So I talked about, actually I don't know if we've talked about the movie Morgan ever on Geekvolution. But one of my big complaints with Morgan is like you'd have a scene where it's like they'd shoot, it's basic shot reverse shot mixed with another bland third angle, and it is just cut every 2 seconds. Just cut. Oh, what are we gonna do? Cut. What are we gonna do? Cut. And I'm like, oh my god, what is this? The movie starts out that way, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my god, I felt like I was really, like, I was worried I was going to want to leave. I was like, do I really want to watch this movie right now? Or do I want to, like, leave and come back tomorrow and watch this movie? And I decided to stick it out. And it was funny because as soon as we get into the book Nocturnal Animals, and we start seeing that played out for us on screen, I immediately was more interested because it really feels like the movie deliberately takes a shift and becomes more artistically directed when you're reading, or when she's in the sections of the movie where you're seeing the book played out on screen. It actually feels like those are directed with a much more interesting artistic aesthetic than everything else that's outside of that. And I have to assume that was intentional. I don't know. So thankfully, this movie really managed to get me interested and pulled me in. Unfortunately, I have no idea how I feel about this movie, though. I know how I feel about very specific things in it. All I can say is that after we got into the story, like the actual book, it got interesting. And I was at least sucked in enough to care and watch what was happening and pay as close attention as I possibly could.
When this movie ended, my brother turned to me and he said, "Do you think Tom Ford likes David Lynch?" What I should probably just first and foremost mention, like the first 20 seconds of this movie, like the first 20 seconds.
It's longer than 20 seconds. It might be like a minute.
No, not the.
Oh, you're talking about, okay, never mind. You're talking about something else.
The first like 20 seconds of the movie are the first 20 seconds of the Neon Demon. Except instead of it being purple, I think in the Neon Demon, it's just a black screen, and then you see purple glitter falling. Yeah,
it's like purple and pink glitter.
In this movie, it's all black, and then you see red glitter falling. And these movies were made at like the same time, so I don't think Tom Ford saw Neon Demon was like, I got to do that.
Oh yeah, there's no way. It was just coincidence, I think.
That's like a really funny coincidence if it is. But like even the opening credits, like how weird, like the way it's framed and the colors, it looked like something David Lynch would do. And even like when they're doing Nocturnal Animals, the book dramatized on screen, there's shots of the highway and you see the divider lines in the headlights. That is a shot from Blue Velvet. Like that's a shot straight. It's not as fast as Blue Velvet, but it's the same shot. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I think Tom Ford really likes David Lynch, and I think I'm kind of on board with you. I've had a little bit more time to digest this movie, I think, than you did.
I saw it yesterday.
I think that this is a movie that's complicated. I'm not crazy about this movie. I don't think it's great. But I don't think it's bad, and I think it's good. I think it's competent. This movie is more interested on the stuff that's happening beneath the surface and the subtextual stuff. And I think on a subtextual level, it follows through with itself. It makes connections. It's perfectly adequate on a subtextual level. But the problem is, I think a lot of the surface stuff is pretty ham-fisted on the nose and not subtle whatsoever. and it's not subtle in the way of I feel like I'm watching the movie, and in between me and the screen, director Tom Ford was in front of me shouting, "Look at the subtext! Look at the subtext!" And like that was a little infuriating. Not infuriating. It was frustrating because when you watch something like The Nice Guys or even Iron Man 3, like a Shane Black movie, you're having forgiven for thinking there wasn't anything going on beneath the surface. But there is stuff going on beneath the surface, and it's very smart, but it's so buried underneath the symbols and the comedy and the entertainment that you don't pay any attention to it until maybe a second or third viewing. That's the way I was with Iron Man 3. Um, I didn't like Iron Man 3 the first time I watched it because I didn't think anything was happening in that movie. And then I rewatched it, like, no, there is stuff happening here, and it's really cool. Nice Guys is one of my favorite movies of the year. It's maybe my second favorite script of the year, but behind Hell or High Water. And by the way, this movie feels like a weird cross between Neon Demon and Hell or High Water.
That was what I was going to say. I was going to bring up Hell or High Water because it feels like once you get into the actual book, it feels like you're in Hell or High Water.
It does.
It turns into that. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot more interesting.
But I felt like Tom Ford was shouting, "Look at the subtext," and like a lot of those early scenes, with those expository scenes before she starts to read the book, they felt so ham-fisted. The stuff with Michael Sheen talking about the way we live in our world, it felt so on the nose. And I felt like Tom Ford, I don't want to say Tom Ford doesn't respect his audience. I don't want to say that. But it did feel like Tom Ford was worried that we wouldn't understand it. And maybe a little bit more rope to the audience would have made this a more artistically satisfying movie to me, at least just on a surface level. Because under the surface, there's a lot of good stuff happening here. But ultimately, and I think we should go into spoilers on this movie, because I think I want to talk about what's happening underneath the surface here. Because I think this is a movie about the way we interpret art. That's what this movie's about, I think, ultimately. I think this movie has a handful of good performances. It has two incredible performances.
I agree.
I think Michael Shannon is the best thing ever in this movie.
And who was the other person you were about to praise?
Aaron Taylor.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Totally. Both of them were fantastic in this movie.
I want to say I think Michael Shannon should have a Best Supporting Actor trophy on the shelf by now. Michael Shannon and Michael Stuhlbarg are they're the two best character actors working today. Like they're always in the big Academy Award nominated movies. They're always around, but no one ever Michael Shannon's definitely gotten praise over the last 6 years since the start of the decade. People have been aware of Michael Shannon, but Michael Stuhlbarg I think needs some more love from at least from the mass audience. But Michael Shannon is so good in this movie. I think that the editing is, as you said, too choppy and too fast at first. But when we got into the movie, it slowed down. It was really cool. And the way the first scene of the book is not a short scene, but it built tension so naturally and authentically. It was fabulous. I want to say that even when we get to the ending and all that stuff, I think it's a competent film that I wish was maybe a little less explicit in what it wanted you to feel. That's what I'll say. Do you have anything to add or say?
I was just going to agree with you, dude. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Let's talk about him because you were talking about Michael Shannon. He was really good. I loved every second of screen time with him. But Aaron Taylor Johnson, he was really good in this, and I really hope that people don't see something like Godzilla and think that, oh, he's just kind of like a stale Jai Courtney type leaning man. And it's funny because like you get to see Jai Courtney play a weirdo in Suicide Squad, and everyone's like, oh, he was good. Again, maybe Jai Courtney's actually a much better actor than the roles he gets. Aaron Taylor Johnson, on the other hand, he's not had like bad roles across the board. Like he was in Kick-Ass. He was good in that. He was decent in Age of Ultron. Not much to really do there. But this, he really gets to act, and he gets to be eccentric, and it's not just like I'm weird and creepy. It's really thoughtful in some of the stuff that he does. Like, for example, there's a scene where he's talking to someone through the window. And he goes eat on the window for a second, and it's so funny but creepy when he does it. I thought that was hilarious. You know exactly. You know what I'm talking about, right? When he's like on the window.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
I love I love the part where he's on the toilet. That was oh my god, that was legitimately funny.
Hmm. Yeah.
uh, how did you feel about Amy Adams? Because she's getting award consideration for this, and I didn't really see it. I mean, she's a good actress. I think though, Arrival might be her standout for the year.
Yeah, she was notable in Arrival. The thing is, this isn't a character that I think you can win an Oscar for.
I completely agree.
Like I think that just on the basis of what's on the page, you can't win an Oscar for this role. Um, it's just not even if she was great, I just don't think you can get nominated for this. And that sounds horrible because I think there are just certain roles that are just not meant to be award-worthy roles, and this is one of those. Everything else is a lot more interesting, I think, than her specific character in this.
Yeah.
And there's not much she can really do to elevate it. She could have, obviously Amy Adams is great, so it's not like she's bad in this movie. It's just not a role that you can go, oh, the main character from this movie was just so great. You have to go see it for her. Like, you can't really say that. Where you can say in Arrival, oh, she's totally buyable, or you totally buy her as this really educated, smart, I guess, language professor. And what works in Arrival is the plausibility and believability of her character. And how she's kind of a Tom Hanks, I think, and that Tom Hanks, what's so great about him is that, like, you make him, you cast him as Sully, and he 100% convinces you he's a pilot, and you totally buy a 100%. There's not even a second where you're like, oh, I don't want to buy Tom Hanks as a pilot. And I think Amy Adams does that well too, where you can buy her as a scientist. You can buy her as an artist or an author or whatever she needs to be in whatever it is. It's believable. She can work in any role that you give her. But this isn't a role where you can really talk about it much, I think. There's really not much there to say.
And I was disappointed by that. And I should probably say, like 80% of this movie is the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's most of it feels weird saying that Amy Adams is the main character because Jake Gyllenhaal in the book is the main character.
And he's great too. His performance is great.
He is great.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal is really, really, really good in this movie. He nails accents. I watched this video the other day where there's this person like going movie by movie with all of these different actors and all of their different accents and these different movies they've been in. And when he got to Jake Gyllenhaal in Brokeback Mountain, he was like, Jake Gyllenhaal is this was like a guy, he trains people and how to have like accurate accents. And he was talking about Jake Gyllenhaal in Brokeback Mountain. He was like, he's flawless. His accent is great. And I'm sure I wouldn't know, but he's fantastic. And what he does well is the accent is integrated into the performance. Like, it's a part of it. Like, it makes the performance in a way. So much character is derived from how he speaks. But he's really good. Jake Gyllenhaal is amazing in this.
I think his rapport with Michael Shannon is great too.
Yes.
It's weird. I usually when you have like a main character, they're driven and they're this thing happened. Now I'm out for revenge. But this character, he's very meek the whole time. He's very reserved, and when this horrible thing happens to him, he just doesn't know how to act. He's just sad and flabbergasted and shaken. And he acts, I think, the way most people would. He doesn't start acting like an action hero when the bad thing happens. A weird thing, another weird comparison between this and Neon Demon. Jenna Malone's in this movie.
Yes.
She's so weird. I have no idea why she's in this movie. It's so weird. By the way, in really her one scene, she talks to. This is another issue I had. Like, it's so blunt with its subtext. Is Amy Adams approaches a wall and stares at a piece of art that says "revenge." Do you get it, audience? It's like I get it. We don't have to linger on the shot for so long. I get it. Also, Isla Fisher's in this movie as Jake Gyllenhaal's wife in the story. Amy Adams and Isla Fisher look like they look like sisters. They look so similar. It's crazy.
Hmm.
I never noticed that before. It was crazy. They're
uh,
both, by the way, both Isla Fisher and Amy Adams are over 40 years old. I can't believe that. That's crazy. By the way, I should say the makeup is really good in this movie. The makeup is really good. When we go back to younger Amy Adams and younger Jake Gyllenhaal when they meet, they
oh,
look legitimately younger.
yeah, I would
It doesn't look
agree.
like the face like that weird CG stuff that they did for like Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War
Hmm.
or Michael Douglas in Ant Man. It looks it's makeup and it looks so authentic. And same thing with Michael Shannon. His character is supposed to look more weary as his scenes go on, and he looks different throughout the movie, and I was impressed by that.
Yeah, I'll say this. There's a scene in this movie where it's hard because it's one of those things where it's someone writing it is speaking what they think, and you can tell that they're in a bubble. And it's hard to talk about this because it's without getting political. There's just a scene where it kind of like bad mouths conservatives. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about? And
yeah,
it's
that felt like the writer standing in front of the.
no, yeah, and it's like, oh, they're them, they're conservative, racist, sexist, bigoted, classist, all like she goes down this list, and I'm like if they are that, fine, but she leads off with they're conservative, which means all of these other things, and that okay, even if you agree with that politically, right? Even if you do, that is clearly someone who is not pulling themselves out of the work that they're trying to write. So obviously, you should put yourself into what you're writing. But at the same time, you can't make every character just a mouth for your opinions, right?
I completely agree, and know exactly where you're coming from.
And it's not, to not get political at all, right? To just completely leave politics out of it. That's just not something you should do as a writer. Just use an opportunity for a character to go on a rant. Oh, I'm just going to spew what I think randomly. You
Yeah,
shouldn't do that. It's not
yeah,
fair. And it shows someone, it just kind of takes me out of the movie because then I'm thinking, oh, does this person live in some sort of bubble of like just, it's just, I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to get into it, but yeah.
yeah. I get where you're coming from. Uh, do we want to get into spoilers now?
Yeah,
That would
sure.
be. I'll give it a 7, maybe a 7.5. It's good. It's well made. It's beautifully photographed. The costumes are great. The acting's exceptional at times. But it just escapes greatness as a whole because I just think that it's too blunt with what it wants to tell you about its subtext. It's too aware of its subtext. I want to say maybe that's a bad way of putting it, but that's what I'll say.
I'll go ahead and give this movie a 7. And this is one of those films where you're supposed to watch it. It's one of those movies where, like, if you watch it multiple times, in theory, you would gain a deeper appreciation for it. But I don't know if I would actually like it more after seeing it again, is the problem. I think that I might like it less, but it is a movie that you have to watch multiple times to fully absorb. And that's kind of problematic, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
And I get exactly where you're coming from. Okay, subtextually speaking, it's a sound film. This is a movie about. I think I heard a reviewer say that they felt like if it was just the book on screen, it would have been a better movie. And I get where they're coming from, but I hesitate with that because I think this movie is about. We need to see Amy Adams in her life before she gets the book. And I think that's important because we're seeing her life and how that life informs what she's going to read. That's important, I think. I just wish that all that stuff was better. So when she's reading the book and she sees that, and she's reading, like, the wife is Isla Fisher, who looks a lot like Amy Adams. Maybe in the book it says that she has red hair. Maybe in the book it says that she has, maybe paler skin. Maybe it says that, but we don't know that. Cinematically speaking, she's probably envisioning herself as his wife. But because we don't want to confuse the audience by having too many, they'll probably recast that as Isla Fisher so it looks enough like her. And little stuff like uh, the character's mildness. She's known her husband in the past, so she knows how, I would assume that this book is probably written from the first person, if I had to make a guess. And so if you're reading something from the first person and it says, I do something, 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 she knew this man. She was married to this man. So she probably has a window into this character that, say, if Armie Hammer's character were to read it, he wouldn't get a window into this. And there's an image, by the way, Jake Gyllenhaal's family in the book gets raped and murdered by these Aaron Taylor Johnson and his posse. But the way they find the dead bodies, the way they're positioned, like you see a piece of art with their bear behind, visible on a couch. You see a piece of artwork in her office hung like over to the corner of a woman on a couch with her bear behind. So maybe that is other art influencing what she's seeing in somebody else's art. So the movie I think this is a movie about the way people interpret art and the way you can't be entirely objective because things in your real life will penetrate the piece of art you are observing. That's what I think is going on in this movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree with at least the bit about interpretations of art because I think that a big thing by the end is that she completely misinterprets where this book is coming from emotionally from Jake Gyllenhaal. I think that she sees this as some sort of like, there's still some longing there. Like, okay, outside of the book itself. In the book, his character is, it's about this tragic thing where his wife and his daughter are taken from him. And then you're just kind of seeing him get his retribution. But it's not like I'm going to go out with my gun and get them all. It's not like that. It's like a step by step. You're seeing him kind of deal with the fallout of that and get back the guys that took his wife and daughter from him, right? And I think that while she's reading that, I think she interprets it as like, oh, on some level he still wants me back and he still likes me and all of these things and that like maybe there's something there. But I think to him it's, this is how you made me feel. Look, this is what I want you to think of, right? This is what I went through in a book, right? Because fiction in many ways is truth on a different level. It's not literally true, it's fiction, but it has truths within it, right? Hidden truths about reality that you can reveal through story. And I think that that's what he is showing it to her as like this story is a perfect picture of the emotional torment that you put me through in our previous relationship, right? Whereas she reads it as, because of all the things going on in her life with, the guy, I don't know if they're married, Armie Hammer and her, I don't know if they're married or just dating, but she finds out, he's cheating on me and all this stuff. And I think she kind of sees that as like, this is him like opening the door back up for us to like maybe get together or like explore what we used to have or something like that. And it's not that at all. And I think by the end of the movie, that last scene is like you don't understand, Amy Adams. That's why you interpreted that art differently from the creator of it. And I think that's what maybe that last scene is supposed to be.
Maybe. What I was thinking was, so Jake Gyllenhaal basically. I think the big reveal of what happened in the past, if it was meant to be a huge revelation, I think it's poorly timed because it's towards the peak of the rising action, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, what happened next?"
Yeah.
Oh, there wasn't. That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty, that's a, for that character, that's a devastating blow. But as far as building tension, I think it was a little poorly placed in the narrative. So the big revelation is that Amy Adams was having an affair with Armie Hammer, and then she was having an affair with Armie Hammer. She got pregnant with Jake Gyllenhaal's child. Then she had an abortion without telling him, and then I guess he found out outside of the abortion clinic. I think that's where they were. And in this movie, but in the story, he talks about, okay, his wife was killed, but they say your daughter had it worse, or something to that effect. And so I think that's Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Amy Adams sees this as Jake Gyllenhaal's character, really reeling from that emotional gut punch of having an abortion, not even telling him. At least I took that she didn't tell him. So that's what I'm taking from that. But as far as the Jake Gyllenhaal character, I like that we actually get a character arc of Jake Gyllenhaal without ever actually seeing him in the now.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is um, Amy Adams' mother tells in a very, I think, a very poor scene that's way too on the nose of the things that you like about him now, you're not going to like about him in the future. He's weak. I know that when his father died. Yada 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 yada. Um, and through this fiction, if you're looking at it from Jake Gyllenhaal's point of view, you never actually see him, but the emotional um, truth that I feel is being portrayed on the story is this is him writing about how he became strong and how at the end of his story when he falls on the gun and it shoots himself, that was the death of his meek, timid self, and now he has become somebody more stronger and somebody who will not go back to Amy Adams because he's not going to go back to that. He'll see going back to Amy Adams as weakness.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what it is because she sees that as he's still broken by the end of the story, whereas for Jake Gyllenhaal, it's no, I'm healed, I'm stronger, I'm better now. That was the death of the weak me. Now I'm me, and I don't have to come back to you.
Right.
What you lagged for a second. What'd you say?
Oh no, you said this is the new me, and then you froze for a little bit.
Oh.
You. So I think that was the end of what you had to say.
No, yeah, yeah. I think that's the end of Jake Gyllenhaal being broken by their relationship. So I think you're right in that the book for him, it's an encapsulation of all of his pain and the things that he's overcome. And for her, she thinks that's a window into how he still feels.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end, it's the standing her up on the date. Right, that's what happened, right? Like, he just didn't show up to their date. And I think I don't have to come back to you. And that's me demonstrating to you why I'm strong. And for her, she was expecting him to show up because she thought that he was broken and that the book symbolized him being broken, where it's actually more of his crucible. That's what he already overcame.
Right. So on a stylistic level, the book is very gritty and down to earth, and the Amy Adams real world stuff is very sleek. And Michael Sheen talks about how in the beginning, oh, our world is different than the real world, and I guess since Tom Ford is a fashion designer, you can see this as him poking fun at the world of fashion, having some kind of commentary. But I think it's more about high art, like rich socialite artists. But then we also have a bit of a window into the way Amy Adams sees her world, where after this, her art thing with like the large dancing women, she says, "I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was sickening. I really didn't like it." And maybe Amy Adams sees the world of art as a very gross thing, and the way she sees art in her world is something that isn't really in her not real world. That's very high socialite rich people. She sees it as the art has become disgusting, and then she gets real art that's something that's kind of more down to earth and grizzled and gritty and more has a lot of passion behind it. Um, and I thought it was weird though that Tom Ford decided to make this movie in a very like art housey, Nicholas Winding Refn, David Lynch style of making it. I thought that was a strange choice. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
I think that it probably. I think this movie is as it's not a conventional narrative, so it I think works in a way where it wouldn't otherwise. At the same, okay, it's actually really tough because I don't know how artsy it really gets at certain points. At certain times, like I said at the beginning, I feel like all the trappings are there for a more art house type approach to this film, but like I said, it's very bland in the beginning. And then once you get into the movie, I think the movie really starts to ramp up in terms of how creative it's trying to be, and I like that. I don't know. For me, I think this movie could have benefited from maybe being a little bit more atmospheric.
Yeah.
In a straight up Nicholas Winding Refn kind of way, with some of the stuff that's not in the book, because like I said, the book feels like Hell or High Water, and it works on that level. I would love if the stuff that was outside of that felt a little bit more like something like the Neon Demon. Yeah.
outside of just seeing Jenna Malone, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this movie. Do you have anything else you wanted to say?
Not really. I think that it's definitely worth seeing, but I don't think this is a movie you have to see in theaters.
I agree.
I think you could
I,
you could wait and see this movie once it's out of theaters, and you might just get just as much out of it.
yeah, maybe. By the way, Michael Shannon. He's not as good as Mahershala Ali in Moonlight, but I want to see this guy at least get nominated for
Let's
this
come
performance.
on. He gets a nomination. Aaron Eckhart. Let's give Aaron Eckhart a nomination for
Yeah.
Bleed for this. Everyone gets a nomination. I think Aaron Eckhart legitimately deserves one for Bleed for this. I don't know if he should win, but he should get nominated because that's an amazing performance in Bleed for this.
If at least not Bleed for this, then maybe Sully, maybe.
Yeah, come on. He's got two roles that at least deserve a wink.
Yeah, a little consideration. Um, our next movie up on the docket, the final movie of the evening, is Miss Sloane. Miss Sloane is a movie starring Jessica Chastain, Michael Stuhlbarg, who gets to actually act in a movie in 2016. Oh my goodness, thank you. It also has Mark Strong, John Lithgow, several other actors, and it is about a lobbyist played by Jessica Chastain who takes on a job not for any necessary political reason, but mostly because she likes the challenge of she's going to try to fight for a gun control legislation and lobby for that. And kind of the trials and tribulations between her and the opposing uh, campaign led by Michael Stuhlbarg. And we get to see more of her life. And Rasco, what did you think of this film, Miss Sloane?
I didn't dislike this movie as I thought. I didn't hate this movie as much as I thought I would. I shouldn't say I hated it, but I thought I would hate this movie. I wound up just not liking it. For me, it doesn't. Okay, I was surprised in how meaty the political discourse was, but at the same time, it's not enough, and that's what's holding it back. So it's strange in that, like, the things that I thought I wouldn't like about this movie, I didn't like about this movie, but not to the extent that I thought I would dislike them.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is it feels like it's one, okay, she's fighting for gun control legislation. We don't learn the specifics of the gun control legislation. So this conversation's completely irrelevant to me because the fine print of legislation is what matters. It's the exact policy, word for word. You need to know exactly what it is. We only get lines like, oh, well, this is the kind of person that wouldn't be affected by it. Oh, and this, and it, on top of that, they really pull the punches on the opposing side, and they try to do everything they can to convince you they're not, but they really hold the punches, and it feels more like, okay, we are obviously she's right, and they're obviously wrong, but we're gonna try to make a little bit of a discourse. And they just kind of expect you to go along with it. And I'm waiting for the real meat. Like I said, we need to know exactly the legislation she's fighting for, exactly what it is. And then we also need to get real comebacks from the other side. We need to get a real discourse. And like I said, because of some of the performances, they get so heated, you really do feel like, oh, maybe this discussion really is happening. But if you really dig deep, here's an example. They use this line, and to not get political, this is just a line from the movie that I will critique. There's a line where someone says, it's more difficult to get a driver's license in America than it is to buy a gun. But you have to have a driver's license to buy a gun. Or you have to have a state ID, which is harder to get than a driver's license. So why does no one on the other side say that, right? And that's what I mean when, like, it really feels like they're pulling punches, because that is immediately what someone should have said. Oh yeah, it's harder to get a driver's license it's harder to get a driver's license than it is to buy a gun. But you have to have a driver's license to buy a gun. So that like, why does no one say that?
Yeah, I'm not as well. You're someone who understands the both sides of an argument, at least on this particular sort of issue than I am. But I do agree. I do think that it is about one side. It's about a woman who's leading a campaign on one side. That's what it's ultimately about. And I like how she's more into it because of the thrill of winning than necessarily she agrees with it. She does agree with it, but it is more can I win this than anything. And I actually found that to be a bit of a refreshing change of pace. But you are right. There's a scene at a debate that I think was probably the best scene in the movie. And there was actually an element towards like the end of the second act where I thought, oh no, this is going to get tasteless. And then it didn't. And there was something that happened. You saw something that happened in action. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it made the argument more nuanced.
Hmm.
And then I like how both sides acted like it wasn't a nuanced thing, like lobbyists do act like, because it isn't us versus them mentality that's going on. It's oh, our team is better than that team. And it's not really about the nuances, because that's not what lobbyists are about. Ultimately, it's you vote for one side or you vote for the other. So I thought this movie was aware, more aware than I thought it would be. But you are right; it does seem to favor one side more than the other. And the biggest issue with this movie, and you hit the nail around the head. We don't know what the legislation is, and that's a big problem. My other thing is there's a revelation at the end. So I was having this issue with this movie, and then there's a revelation at the end that kind of confirmed that I think the movie would have been better if we saw how Michael Stuhlbarg ran his campaign.
Hmm.
Because we do have scenes with Michael Stuhlbarg having dinners and conversations with the other senators, but we don't see how he's running his campaign and how he's playing the chess game with her. And we see how she's playing it, but I would have liked to see the other side and how they were countering it a little bit more. And I think that would have made it a lot more of a fun and intense debate.
It should have been more like the movie Rush,
Okay, yeah.
where it's very much a dual protagonist story, and it's all about that back and forth, and that way you don't have to pull punches, like I said, right? Because if you start from the position of this person is the protagonist, it's hard to not pull punches that way. I think you can, and I don't give the movie a pass for not, but I think that like if you do the dual protagonist thing, and then you can more adequately explore both ideas because you don't have to put someone in the role of that's the guy you're against. As an audience member, you're supposed to be against him. You don't have to have that if you do the more dual protagonist. They define each other in their competition.
Yeah. I will say this. I don't think the character of Elizabeth Sloane is interesting. I think she almost comes off like a CSI character. She's got her little quirks and stuff, but I think Jessica Chastain's giving a great performance.
I
I
would
think
agree.
Jessica Chastain is one of the great actresses working today. Michael Stuhlbarg is in my top two favorite character actors working today. I think he is absolutely fantastic, and unlike Doctor Strange and unlike Arrival, he actually has something to act with in this movie, and it's awesome to actually see him act. Um, I think Jake Lacey, who plays an escort in this movie, Jake Lacey is actually an actor who's starting to get up on my radar. I wasn't a fan of him in the last season of The Office, but I like Jake Lacey, and I think he's really good in this movie. John Lithgow is in this movie. I really like John Lithgow, and I think everyone's giving good performances. So my thoughts on the direction are a little on one hand and on the other hand, because on one hand, I like the shot composition right here. We have a person sitting in a chair right here, and then we have Miss Sloane back here. And there's a conversation that those three have, and the camera doesn't move, and people like come up to the frame and then they go away from the frame. And I thought that not cutting and cutting to a bunch of talking heads and using the frame and using your actors was really cool. I think it's a well blocked film. I think the shot compositions are really interesting. I like how it tells its story on a visual level. But I don't think the direction. I think the director's name here is John Madden. I don't think he's a good director of actors just yet. And I think Mark Strong, Jessica Chastain, Michael Stuhlbarg, John Lithgow. These are all great actors, and they're bringing stuff to this movie because they're good actors. I don't think that there was a lot of rehearsal here, and what I mean by that is with the scenes where Miss Sloane and her team like talking, it felt sitcom where everyone needs to have a line,
Yeah.
and it almost feels like whoever wrote this movie really likes Aaron Sorkin because everyone's always zipping and talking and it's always jumping back and forth. But the way it's directed, it all felt a little stilted, where everyone's got to have their own little quip to put in, and it felt like these were actors having exchanges, and these were actors trying to remember their life. If that it is hard to articulate, but there was something about the way the ensemble scenes where they're all bouncing off each other didn't feel very authentic to
Yeah, I would agree. I think this was a movie that I might have liked more if it was directed by Danny Boyle.
me.
um, that wouldn't have fixed a lot of the problems I had with it. But I think that I agree. It's not like there's nothing really here to write home about when it comes to the directing. Uh, but at the same time, it's not bland, I will say. It's at least somewhat elevated.
I agree. I don't really know how much more I have to say about this. I guess lastly, there's a debate scene in this movie that kind of encapsulates where the director wants you to know what to feel at all times, where you have people watching the debate and it's live, and then Miss Sloane says something, and then the music goes done, and then all the actors go, that wasn't the rebuttal, and then how cool would it have been if they had their debate and then she got off the stage and went back and then people called her like, what was up with that? No, 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 that was so bad. And everyone's freaking out. That would have been better and it would have caught, I think, the audience more off guard. And we're told that Michael Stuhlbarg is a very good debater in this movie. And because of the music telling us, oh, he's a good debater, he's getting her in a corner, how cool would it have been if she thought she won the debate and then she gets off the stage and then she finds out, oh, I actually lost. I underperformed. He got me in a corner. I didn't even realize it. I think that would have been a better way to play that scene.
Yeah. This that's perfect actually. That whole scene, if you take out the dramatic elements and you just let it be almost kind of like Manchester by the Sea, just show it. Just show the debate. And that's all we really need. You don't need to try to heighten it necessarily. And if you it's funny actually because the reason I said Danny Boyle would have been a good pick for this is because I actually think that he does the exact opposite of what we're saying would work in that scene. I think that he does the telling you exactly what you're supposed to feel in a scene very well, where like a conversation feels like a fist fight.
Yeah.
In the movie like Steve Jobs, the way he directs those, it's like a fist. It's like people are in combat when they're having discussions. They do that, but I actually think it would have worked to do the reverse, like you said, and let's just see them have the debate, and then let's get the post game, like, well, here's where you really messed up, and they show her like a tape. Why'd you do this? Blah 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 blah. This is what people are saying on Twitter about whatever you did. Like all that. That would be cool. I would have actually really liked that.
Full disclosure, I actually walked into this movie a little bit late, so maybe you can answer this question for me. So, did you notice that she had a picture of George W. Bush like out of focus in her office?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I mean, she was working for like a conservative lobbyist thing. I suppose that maybe that's why, but I don't know. I think that's weird. I think that's really weird. That has nothing really to do with the movie. I just thought it was a weird detail. So I'll probably give Miss Sloane a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was
better
exactly
than I
what I was
thought.
going to give it. 6 out of 10.
I think Jessica Chastain's a really good actress. I think she gives a good performance. I think maybe had this movie should have come out in like August. I think this is like a late, like a mid to early August movie, a little bit smaller release. But because Jessica Chastain is an actress that gets a lot of buzz for her performances, and she gives a really good performance here, that they put it out in December. I said that earlier, but I think it bears repeating.
Yeah, I think that this movie, it's a shame, right? Because this is a movie that's kind of made for me. Like I really like politics. This is a movie that I would have really liked to watch. I really like the whole game of politics and just kind of like the spectator sport aspect of it. And this movie, I think, kind of dropped the ball there for people like me that really, really like politics and want to see them really get into it and dive deep. And it does to an extent, but it really, like I said, it just feels there's too many punches being held back. And that's my biggest complaint about the movie. So overall, I think a 6 out of 10 is pretty fair for this film.
And I will say, it has a big gotcha ending, and I liked it. I thought it was a cool twist.
Yeah, it was fine.
All right, Rasco, let's get into movie recommendations. These are movies that we are recommending to you, the audience, in case you haven't seen them, based off of criteria of the movies we just reviewed for you. So I'll go first this time around. I am going to be recommending that you check out Steve Jobs. It's funny that you had mentioned that. This is mostly coming out of my our review of Miss Sloane because Steve Jobs was an awards contender film that not a whole lot of people watched. It actually bombed at the box office and it had a powerhouse performance from a very popular actor in it, as well as Michael Stuhlbarg in a supporting performance that is at conflict with the main character. I think Steve Jobs is a better film than Miss Sloane. So if you like mostly talking movies with a lot of zippy dialogue, that is, also solidly directed by Danny Boyle, written by Aaron Sorkin. Michael Fassbender stars as Steve Jobs, and he gives an incredible performance that should have beaten Leonardo DiCaprio last year for The Revenant. So that's my recommendation. Check out Steve Jobs if you haven't already. It is worth a watch.
Awesome. Steve Jobs is very good. So my recommendation for this week is a little film called Nightcrawler, which the reason I picked this film is because Jake Gyllenhaal is in Nocturnal Animals, and I thought, hey, he's in that movie. And my favorite film with Jake Gyllenhaal is Nightcrawler. And Nightcrawler is actually, I really don't want to say much about it at all. I'll say this. Jake Gyllenhaal should have won Best Actor. Should have been nominated. He wasn't even nominated.
Yeah.
It's essentially about a sociopath. Is that fair to say? I think that's that's what the movie's really about. Jake Gyllenhaal plays a character of Lou Bloom. He really doesn't care about people, and it's kind of scary, and it's one of the most interesting characters in any movie that I maybe have ever seen, and it's one of the best performances in any movie I've ever seen as well. Jake Gyllenhaal is amazing in Nightcrawler. Don't want to say anything else about it. Just go watch that movie. It's really good.
I think I could add one thing. Bill Paxton's in it.
Bill Paxton's in it. You gotta see it now. You gotta see it now.
Yeah. You talk about the 2014 Best Actor race, and by the way, 2014 was a stacked year for Best Actor. The nominees that year were the winner, who ended up being Eddie Redmayne, who shouldn't have won. Who should have won, I think, was Michael Keaton for Birdman. We also had Bradley Cooper for American Sniper, Steve Carell in Foxcatcher, and then I can't remember who the fifth person was. But I think if you got, I think, okay, Steve Carell in Foxcatcher was a supporting role. Get him out of that mix. And then I think Bradley Cooper in American Sniper gave a good performance. I don't think it was top 5 material for that year, so I'd get rid of him. And I would replace him with David Oyelowo from Selma, because he deserved to be there. He was amazing as Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma. And replace one of those two, in the last remaining spot, replace that with Jake Gyllenhaal from Nightcrawler. Yes. He was so good.
Yes, he's so good. Oh, that was designed. Like, we talk about like Oscar bait. That's the most Oscar bait, not Oscar bait ever, right? Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, he's trying to go for the Oscar. It's just a great performance that is exactly the kind of performance that you should go and point, that's someone that we need to recognize. That performance in particular, there's something unique going on there. It kills me. Kills me come on, guys. We've had past feuds with the Oscars, but this year's feud with the Oscars needs to be, let's give Jake Gyllenhaal an Oscar for 2 years ago, and we'll throw him back in this year. He gets nominated for his performance in Nightcrawler just this year. How about that?
Yeah. You were nominating him in Best Lead Actor for Nocturnal Animals, but really it's Nightcrawler. If you think about it, Nightcrawler and Nocturnal Animals are not so different of titles, really, when you think about it.
I'm sure Nightcrawlers are nocturnal, so.
Yeah. Now we're going to get into trailer trash. We're going to talk about trailers. We have 4 trailers to talk about from this last week. The first of which is the first official trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming, the new film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, directed by John Watts, starring, what's that kid's name? Holland.
Tom
Holland. We also have Michael Keaton and Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr. What did you think of this trailer, Rasco?
Okay, so I like this trailer. I didn't love this trailer, but that's not... Okay, I look for very very specific things in a trailer. I really don't need a lot. I need tone, and I just want to see beautiful shot composition. Those are the real two things that I look for in a trailer. If I see those two things, that's almost always what sells me on something. So I think tone-wise, this movie looks spot on for what I would want a Spider-Man movie to be. And then to get into the actual trailer itself and some of the things that I've seen people say, nothing in this trailer worried me the way that I've seen a lot of people get worried. Like, it doesn't bother me at all that Robert Downey Jr. is in this movie a lot, or it looks like he's going to be in it at least a significant amount. That doesn't bother me at all. I mean, we've seen, this is the point of a Marvel Cinematic Universe. The point is a big character that could have their own film can show up as a side role in someone else's movie. I understand if you don't want to have Spider-Man and Tony Stark in a film together, and because you don't want Tony to solve all of Peter's problems. I understand that. I really don't think that you have much to worry. I think that it's very likely by the end of this movie there's some sort of maybe even like a rift there between the two of them, and Spider-Man realizes that he doesn't want to be an Avenger or whatever. I've said that before in past videos about like Civil War. I think that like this might actually be a movie where you see a little bit of a rift and you see that divide, and then in the future you'll get more of what you're wanting with the more Spider-Man's his own thing away from the Avengers. I think you might actually get more of that after this film. So I don't really, none of that worries me at all. I don't know. There's not much else to say. Tone looked fine. There was a lot of little cool moments that I'm sure are going to be good scenes. I really did like the opening scene with the bank robbery and the Avengers masks and all of that. Yeah, it was kind of what I was expecting from a Spider-Man Homecoming trailer.
I actually didn't know what I was going to get out of this trailer. So I'm sure this movie is going to be really good. I am, and I like this trailer. There are a couple issues I have with this trailer. I would have liked to have seen less Robert Downey Jr. In fact, I don't like seeing Iron Man flying around with Spider-Man in Spider-Man's first movie in the MCU. My worry is, I hope it's not too big of a scale for a first Spider-Man movie. I don't want the Vulture is going to nuke the city and turn everyone into Vulture people as the first, Spider-Man movie. Oh my God, the Vulture's going to nuke DC. I hope that's not where it comes down to. I really hope so. In his one line, I really like Michael Keaton, but I think there's a little too much Tony Stark. It seems more like, oh yeah, it's Spider-Man, but look at this Tony Stark. Honestly, what would have hooked me a little bit more is, okay, fine, Tony Stark's in the movie. Maybe he's even a prominent role. Okay, fine. Maybe I don't want to see Iron Man, but if you do it right, cool. But if you want to hook me, I want to see more of this Spider-Man in high school. We've seen him like doing superheroics in Civil War. I want to see how this Peter Parker is like. I want to see what he's like, and that's what would have hooked me. But I do like that opening scene where it's him fighting the thugs in the Avengers masks, and I think the stuff we get in high school is pretty cool, and I like the song choice. It feels very high schooly, just the tone for a while there, and that was my favorite part. I think it maybe gets a little too big scale for my liking for our first trailer. I hope we don't do that Amazing Spider-Man 2 thing. I don't think we will. We get too much marketing. It's too big. It's just too much going on. And I don't hate that movie like everyone else seems to, but I hope, I have a couple of worries and a couple of reservations, but I'm sure it's going to be a really good movie.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to see more Spider-Man high school stuff. I think this is more of a second trailer than a first trailer.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's all I'll say. I think Michael Keaton looks cool. I think the Vulture costume looks awesome. I've seen a lot of people complain about the mask and stuff. Shut up. If you're complaining about the mask, shut up. It looks cool.
I love Michael Keaton, too. I just love him. I'm going to kill you and everyone you care about. He sounds like a trucker almost. It's hilarious. All right, our next trailer is the first official trailer for War for the Planet of the Apes. This is the third installment in the new Apes, I guess now it's a trilogy, starring Andy Serkis, and this time around we also have Woody Harrelson. What did you think of this trailer?
So like I just mentioned, I look for very specific things in trailer. I look for tone and I look for shot composition, and this trailer, I love it. I love it so much. I mean, okay, so I really like both of the Planet of the Apes movies in this new kind of softish reboot franchise. I've really liked both of the past films, and this movie looks awesome. I think that this is the film where we fully go full ape protagonist, whereas like in the past, so with the first Planet of the Apes film, it's about a very specific relationship. The second Planet of the Apes film is about kind of it's a kind of a tragedy. It's kind of like a Shakespearean tragedy where you get a main protagonist for two sides, and then they kind of come together, and it's trying to do a Tale of Two Cities type of thing going. There's a little bit of that in there, but I really like that. This movie, I think we've gone full ape protagonist, and I think that's the next logical step. It's, okay, now this is Caesar's movie in a way that the other movies were Caesar's movie as well, but this is Caesar's movie. Like, it's his film. He's the protagonist of the movie. And I think that is so earned at this point.
Yeah.
That's what really got me about this, because I stopped and I was like, wow, this movie has so earned Caesar as a fully CGI ape that is totally capable of carrying a movie as the lead. And I'm so excited to see Woody Harrelson in this film. Yeah, I'm so excited. Oh, my God.
So my thoughts on the last couple Apes movies is I watched the first one in theaters. I barely remember it. I remember liking it. The thing I remember the most about that is David Oyelowo. He turns to a guy in a helicopter who's got a gun, and he says, "How do you shoot?" "I shoot fish in a barrel, sir." "Good." Cut. It says good. It's so weird. I don't know why that just lodged in my brain forever. The second movie, I don't like. I think it's a really good movie. I don't think it's a great movie like everyone else. It helped that my worst movie-going experience is with that movie because that stupid person reading every single subtitle in that around. There's a link to the video in the description. Whatever, I'll put it there. Or I tell that story in one of our Socratic Circle Cinema episodes. But I think it's a really good movie. The best thing about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was Caesar was an amazing character. He's such a good character. And Koba is a really good character. Mm-hmm. There are things towards the end of the second act that frustrate me. I think that there's just things about like conveniences and character, people acting stupid that bug me in that movie. But one thing's for sure, that movie is visually incredible. Those apes look real. That orangutan looks real.
Oh my!
It looks real. I can touch that orangutan, I think, every time I see it. The illusion is complete. There's no uncanny valley, at least with that orangutan and most of the other apes. They look incredible. I love this trailer. Why I love it is the beginning. Like, we've earned a trailer where Caesar's like giving this awesome war speech. We've earned that where he's like, "I offered peace," and he's going on this really cool speech. And if this was like the first movie and we heard Caesar saying that, I wouldn't care. No. 3 movies in and he's saying that, I'm all full on board. And what I also like though is we get 2 monologues. We get one from Woody Harrelson and one from Caesar, mm-hmm. and they both explain the ideologies of the sides of this war, and that was great. And when Woody Harrelson says it will be, and I went, "Say a planet of apes, say it, say a planet of apes," I actually went, yes. It was so cool.
I agree. This trailer is amazing. This is a great trailer. And I'll just, the shot with them riding on the horses, dude, that is so impressive. And, you know, we live in a time where everyone right now is all about how, your CGI is the enemy. We hate CG. And, you know, the thing is, it's not that CGI is bad. It's that when you use CGI, you have to use it smartly. And you have to use it in a way. Is smartly a word? Yes, it
is now.
It is now. You have to use their intelligentical. You have to utilize it where it must be used, and it has to be used in a way that makes the story better. And there's no doubt in my mind that the best way to make Planet of the Apes movies right now is with the mocap, because they've shown that it's not lazy. They are trying so hard to make this look as photorealistic as possible, and it looks so good. It's not even the kind of thing where oftentimes people are apathetic towards CG. Like, you'll see things in CG and it's apathetic. Not this. You're looking at it and you're like, oh, I love looking at this because it's so impressive. Like, I love looking at this.
Any doubt in my mind that going CG was the wrong route was jettisoned the second that opening shot of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where it's just Caesar's face and it's panning out and you see all the other apes. It looks incredible. It looks so good.
Oh my God. I'll just
and also,
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That scene though where they're riding horses on the seashore, that looks reminiscent of the original where there's the Statue of Liberty in the sand. And oh man, that kind of classic movie throwback. They always get me. Maybe it's because I'm a fanboy of classic film, but like even stuff in like Allied where they're referencing Casablanca, I'm like, ooh, they're referencing Casablanca. So that's all I really have to say about it. It's an awesome trailer, and I wish it was War of the Planet of the Apes because it would be consistent with the other titles, but I'll take it. It's a great title.
I'm so excited for this movie. I think, and I saw a lot of people saying this in the comments for this. So I remember the day this came out, the same day as Spider-Man: Homecoming, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember I watched Spider-Man: Homecoming, and then I see Planet of the Apes. What? I click on that trailer, and I'm more excited to watch that than Spider-Man: Homecoming, just because I just am. That's just it's more my kind of thing. Not that Spider-Man: Homecoming isn't. I'm just saying Planet of the Apes is really up my alley, and as soon as Planet of the Apes comes up, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm watching it, and I go to the comments, and there are so many people that are like, whoa, this is way cooler than Spider-Man: Homecoming. And I'm just like, I kind of love this. I kind of love that on a day where two trailers for two movies come out. One is Spider-Man: Homecoming, one is Planet of the Apes. I kind of like that I'm seeing everyone freaking out about Planet of the Apes.
It's cool. It's so cool.
It's so earned. It's such a earned climax to a trilogy. It's so I'm just ready for this movie, right? Like I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this movie.
All right. The third trailer we're going to be talking about tonight is the first official trailer. It says it's a teaser trailer. It's a first trailer for Baywatch, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Zac Efron, Alexandra Daddario, and a couple other people. And it looks like they're jump streeting the Baywatch franchise. What do you think of this trailer?
I didn't hate this trailer. I think that this movie, based on this trailer, I think this movie has potential to actually be a decent comedy. Nothing about this trailer just straight up annoyed me. Nothing about this trailer makes me think that it's going to be 21 Jump Street. That being said, I didn't think 21 Jump Street was going to be 21 Jump Street. So
that's true.
That's fair. I think that The Rock and Zac Efron, I like those choices for this. I think that's funny. And I think that those two actors, I think a lot of people agree, they're two of the most charismatic actors who play well off of other people. Put them together, I don't see how they don't play well off each other, right?
Yeah. I was actually, to be honest, I was actually pretty excited when I heard this movie. They're kind of jump streeting Baywatch. I'm like, yeah, Baywatch is ridiculous. Let's do that. And I think, Zac Efron's in this movie. That's awesome. I love Zac Efron. I love him. He's so great. I like The Rock a lot. Yeah, I thought he was really good in Central Intelligence. He's acting in that movie actually, and yeah, he's still doing The Rock, but he's acting. I was pretty let down by this trailer, to be honest. Now, maybe, I could be wrong. This could turn into 21 Jump Street, but this looks like they're just aping 21... They're just doing 21 Jump Street, but making a Baywatch. And I would have liked to have seen how they kind of built on the foundation that is 21 Jump Street and, like, kind of continued and how meta we can really get and how clever we can get with the meta comedy that we're doing. I didn't really laugh a whole lot, and I'm bummed out because I wanted to laugh while I was watching this. I think, I love Zac Efron. I just don't think he's given a lot of funny lines to say, and I think he's definitely trying. I just didn't think they were very funny. I thought the stuff I laughed at the most was The Rock when he's saving people and he's just being over the top. I think The Rock is a perfect choice for this kind of thing. And I yeah, I think I think this movie can still be good. I just don't think this is a particularly good trailer. I think as far as some of the jokes, especially from Zac Efron, I don't think were very funny. And I think that conceptually speaking, I feel like it's maybe a little redundant now that we have now that we have two Jump Street movies to do this. I think just judging by the trailer, it looks, I don't know, a little easy.
We're gonna get a cinematic universe, Connor.
Yes. MIB 23 meet Baywatch.
Yeah. I don't really have many thoughts about this trailer. It was okay. It's fine.
What about Baywatch Nights, Men in Black? Do you know what Baywatch Nights is?
No.
Basically, the X-Files was really popular, so they had like a a Baywatch spin-off that was about characters from Baywatch solving like alien crime mysteries at night. It was really cheesy.
Wow.
That was a thing. So yeah, MIB.
Well, I do know what Men in Black is. So
yeah, that's good. All right, the final trailer of the evening is trailer. It's the second trailer. It says trailer one. It's the second trailer for Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. Rasco, what did you think of this trailer?
So again, I look for two things in a trailer. I look for tone, shot composition. I think the first trailer gave me a better sense of tone than this one did. The first teaser, I guess. But this movie definitely confirmed what I already knew about Christopher Nolan, is that like it's just one of the things that I think is that it's so easy to point to, but I don't think anyone ever talks about this. And it's just this basic understanding of how you compose a shot and how to show you an image that on a compositional level is appealing. That's a very basic thing that you'll learn in photography. You'll learn that in a drawing class. You'll learn that anywhere. It's just basic composition of a shot. And I think Christopher Nolan totally gets that. And I think that's actually one of the big things that makes him stand out. And it's really that simple. It's just this basic understanding of shot composition. So this trailer gave me that for sure. That being said, I think this is going to be a movie that's going to be really hard to advertise because it is, from this trailer, it looks like it's kind of an ensemble film where I don't think we're going to have a main protagonist. I think we're going to have someone like maybe 4 or 5 people. And we kind of see 4 or 5 stories that all focus around this singular event. And I think that because of that, it's going to be a hard movie to advertise because you can't like, here's Tom Hardy's character. This is what he's about. This is the story. This is, you can't do that, right? You can't go in. You can only get little bits of setup with all these different characters. So I think this is going to be a hard movie to advertise on anything. Like if you're going to try to advertise the story, but I think that if they can stick to just like it's an ominous, intense war film, get ready and just show how beautiful it looks, I think that's all you really need, right? Like I didn't love this trailer the way I loved the Planet of the Apes trailer, but it's definitely has me excited for the movie because you don't see anything bad, right?
Right.
It's just not necessarily like a great edited trailer. It's not like a fantastically put together trailer, right? The same way that I think the Planet of the Apes trailer was.
I think the Planet of the Apes trailer is more awesome. Honestly, this might be like my favorite trailer since Logan.
Oh, really?
I really like this. Now, Rasco, what do I like? What kind of stories do I like?
You like stories where people get killed.
I like survival stories.
Yeah.
And this is a war survival. I had no idea that's what it was gonna be.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea how I saw the teaser. I'm like, yeah, looks really cool, very well shot. Looks really good. I was not expecting to be blown away by this trailer. It's so cool. Okay, I gotta. Christopher Nolan is a filmmaker who thrives on high concept, right? That's kind of what he does. And I was thinking, oh, he's doing a war movie. That seems a little conventional for him. I'll see it and I'll probably really like it. But I think the high concept here is we're seeing this big event from the windows of different people. You have Tom Hardy in the air. You're going to see it from his perspective. You're going to see the bit of a Cillian Murphy going back with Mark Rylance. We're going to see it from his perspective. We have Harry Styles and other people on the beat. We're going to see it from their perspective. Like these 3, maybe even 4 or 5 different perspectives of this event. That's high concept. And it's a survival story. Oh my goodness, Christopher Nolan, can you read my mind? Like, oh my God, I'm so excited, dude. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I think it looks really good. I think the action looks incredible. I think the special effects look really good. I think the costumes look awesome. I think the set, the lighting, the atmosphere, the cinematography, it all looks so good. I'm so excited for this movie. Honestly, with this trailer, this movie jumped up into like my top 3 most anticipated movies for next year. And it's up there with Star Wars Episode 8. I've forgotten how much I really like Christopher Nolan. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. I know Christopher Nolan is a popular filmmaker, and some people don't really like him. I get why. I love him. Inception is in my top 3 favorite films ever made. It is the movie that made me want to make movies again. So I can't shake that. It's what inspired me. So it just kind of has to be one of my favorites, and I go back to it. Inception inspired me. So I'm gonna watch whatever Christopher Nolan movie comes out. As long as he keeps making movies, I'll watch them. And I think that I really like Interstellar. I think it was a little too big, and I think that there are places where it drops the ball, but I do really like that movie regardless. I think that this is coming 3 years after Interstellar, which is the longest window he's had between films. So I think this movie might be extra tight. And this is not being co-written with his brother like he usually writes. It's actually being co-written with his wife. And this is her first time writing co-writing a script, but she's produced all of Christopher Nolan's films with him, even going all the way back to Follow. So I think that's really interesting. I'm really psyched out of my mind for this movie. It looks great. I have no more words to say. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Also, I'll say this. The poster is even cooler than the trailer. The poster is amazing for this movie.
It is. It's so good.
It's amazing.
Well, that's all I really have to say about all the things we talked about tonight. Do you have anything to say, Rasco?
No, not really. I think we've touched everything.
All right. Next week, we are going to be talking about 2 films. A little movie some people might have heard of called Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and a actual movie that no one cares about called Collateral Beauty coming out. That's, of course, starring Will Smith, Kate Winslet, Michael Pena, Keira Knightley, and other people. And I thought La La Land was coming out next week. It's not. I'm really disappointed. I want to watch La La Land as soon as I possibly can, but those are the only 2 movies coming out next week. So I'm sure there's going to be a spoiler cast on Rogue One, and I'm sure we'll both attend there. But we will probably give our spoiler-free thoughts. And generally speaking, on spoiler cast, there's a lot of people when we get their input. We probably won't get all of our thoughts out there. So we'll give additional thoughts on Rogue One post spoiler cast, as well as Collateral Beauty. So those are what we're going to talk about next time.
Yeah, I'll just point this out. I think Collateral Beauty looks like the biggest Oscar bait film of all time. On every level. The trailer, the people in it, the premise, and the title. Every single level, I think it is Oscar bait.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because it feels like the Suits, like, let's make an Oscar bait movie. And it's like, as opposed to, like, usually, like, an artist has an idea for a movie, and then people pick it up because they think it could win awards. With this one, it's like, Suits were like, yes, put all these actors in it, and then they'll call it Collateral Beauty, we'll win awards. It's like Office Christmas Party. The same ideas that went into making the raunchy comedy holiday movie went into making the Will Smith Oscar movie. It's ridiculous.
Let me explain a very large abstract concept. I feel like that is a trope in so many Oscar bait trailers. In particular. You know what I'm talking about, right? You've seen, like, you know.
I've never seen the trailer for Collateral Beauty.
Okay, well, you're going to watch it, and then you're going to go, oh, Rasco pointed out exactly what's going on there.
I think it's really funny, but just no context, you just saying that like Will Smith is really, really funny.
uh, okay.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. It's been a great night. Thank you very much, Rasco. Until next time, we'll see you next week. I'm Connor Nielsen.
And I'm Rasco.
Bye.
Peace out.